One of the most critical truths about knowledge is that simply possessing it does not automatically translate into power or success. Knowledge in isolation, without corresponding action, is essentially useless. It is like having a map but never setting out on the journey, or owning a toolbox but never picking up a single tool to build anything. The true value of knowledge is realized only when it is put into practice. Think about the countless people who have access to immense amounts of information. Students memorize facts for exams, professionals attend seminars, and individuals consume knowledge from books, articles, and the internet. Yet, many of them struggle to convert this information into meaningful outcomes. Why? Because knowledge alone does not change circumstances or solve problems. Action is the bridge between knowing and achieving. Without action, knowledge remains theoretical and inert. It can even become a source of frustration. Imagine knowing exactly what needs to be done to improve your health, finances, or career, but never taking the necessary steps. The potential for transformation exists, but it remains locked away, unexpressed. This creates a kind of paralysis where people feel overwhelmed by what they know but powerless because they do not act. Moreover, knowledge without action misses out on the most important feedback loop, experience. When you act on what you know, you test your ideas, learn from mistakes, and refine your understanding. This cycle of action and reflection deepens your competence and enhances your power. On the other hand, knowledge that remains untouched by real-world application is shallow and incomplete. History is full of examples where people had knowledge but failed to act, and thus missed opportunities or allowed situations to worsen. Conversely, many successful leaders and innovators did not necessarily possess more knowledge than others, but they had the courage to act decisively on the knowledge they did have. Their willingness to move from thought to action is what turned their knowledge into power. In the business world, the difference between success and failure often lies in execution, not just ideas. An entrepreneur may have brilliant insights, but if they never launch their product or connect with customers, their knowledge achieves nothing. Similarly, in personal growth, knowing how to improve one's habits or mind, it is not enough unless one makes the conscious choice to change. Taking action also requires overcoming fear, doubt, and inertia. It is easier to remain in a state of knowing because it feels safe. But power lies in the willingness to step into uncertainty and make decisions that can lead to growth and change. Action converts potential energy into kinetic energy. It activates the power contained within knowledge. In conclusion, knowledge is the seed, but action is the soil, water, and sunlight that allow it to grow. Without action, knowledge remains dormant and ineffective. To truly harness the power of knowledge, one must commit to acting on it, learning from experience, and continuously pushing forward. Only then can knowledge transform from a passive asset into a dynamic force that creates real impact in the world. Knowledge, by itself, is only potential. It is raw information, facts, theories, or insights that reside in our minds or books. But potential alone does not create change or influence. What transforms knowledge into true power is application, the act of using what we know to achieve a purpose, solve a problem, or influence outcomes. Application is the crucial step that takes knowledge from an abstract concept and makes it practical, effective, and impactful. Imagine you learn about a new technology, a scientific principle, or a management strategy. The knowledge is valuable, but it's not until you apply that knowledge, whether by developing a new product, improving a process, or making better decisions, that you unlock its power. Application is the engine that drives progress and innovation. It is the difference between knowing something and using it to make a difference. One way to understand this is through the analogy of energy. Knowledge is like stored energy. It has the potential to do work but requires activation. Application is the switch that releases that energy, turning it into movement and results. Without application, knowledge remains inert, unable to influence the world or empower the individual who holds it. When we apply knowledge, we create value. For example, a doctor's knowledge of medicine becomes power when they diagnose and treat a patient. An engineer's understanding of physics turns into power when they design a bridge or a machine. A teacher's grasp of educational theory becomes power when they inspire and educate students. These are clear examples where application transforms knowledge into something tangible and influential. Application also enhances learning and deepens understanding. When we use knowledge in real situations, we encounter challenges, adapt to unforeseen circumstances, and refine our skills. This practical experience strengthens our expertise and expands our capacity to apply knowledge in more complex ways. It's a dynamic process. Application and knowledge feed each other, creating a cycle of continuous improvement and empowerment. Furthermore, application is essential in leadership and influence. Leaders who apply their knowledge to strategy, communication, and decision-making can inspire teams, navigate crises, and achieve goals. Those who fail to apply their knowledge may be respected for their intellect, but lack real influence or effectiveness. Power in leadership comes not from knowing the right ideas, but from acting on them decisively. It's also important to recognize that application requires more than just knowledge. It involves judgment, creativity, and sometimes courage. Knowing what to do is one thing, deciding how, when, and with whom to act requires wisdom and confidence. The process of applying knowledge is often complex and nuanced, but this complexity is where true power lies. In conclusion, knowledge alone is like having a key. Application is the act of turning that key to unlock a door. Without application, knowledge is idle and powerless. When we apply what we know, whether in daily life, work, or leadership, we transform abstract information into practical power that shapes reality. To harness the full potential of knowledge, we must commit not just to learning, but to doing. Application turns knowledge into power. Knowledge is often thought of as purely intellectual, the facts, data, and information we accumulate, but in the real world, knowledge alone is rarely enough to achieve true power or success. That's where emotional intelligence comes into play. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, manage, and use emotions effectively, both in ourselves and in others. When combined with knowledge, emotional intelligence amplifies its impact and transforms information into meaningful action. Why does emotional intelligence matter so much? Because knowledge without the ability to connect with people, navigate social dynamics, and manage one's own emotions can fall flat. For example, you might know the best strategies to lead a team or negotiate a deal, but if you can't read the room, handle conflicts, or inspire trust, your knowledge won't translate into power. Emotional intelligence enhances knowledge by providing the social and emotional context in which knowledge is applied. It helps us communicate ideas clearly, motivate others, and build relationships, all essential for turning knowledge into influence and action. A highly knowledgeable person who lacks empathy or self-awareness may struggle to lead effectively or make collaborative decisions. There are 4 main components of emotional intelligence that amplify knowledge: self-awareness. Understanding your own emotions and how they affect your thoughts and behavior helps you apply knowledge more thoughtfully. It prevents emotional reactions from clouding judgment and allows you to make decisions with clarity. Self-regulation, managing your emotions, especially in stressful or challenging situations, enables you to stay focused and execute your knowledge without being overwhelmed by fear, anger, or frustration. Empathy, being able to perceive and understand the emotions of others, allows you to tailor how you share knowledge, influence decisions, and resolve conflicts. It's essential for effective leadership and teamwork. Social skills. Building strong relationships and communicating effectively ensure that your knowledge reaches others in ways that inspire action and collaboration. Consider a leader who understands the technical details of a project, but also knows how to motivate their team, address concerns, and celebrate successes. Their emotional intelligence allows them to apply their knowledge in a way that energizes people and drives results. On the other hand, A technically brilliant but emotionally disconnected individual may fail to gain support or inspire change. Emotional intelligence also plays a crucial role in learning. It helps us stay open to feedback, manage setbacks, and remain resilient, qualities necessary for continuously growing our knowledge and applying it effectively over time. In summary, emotional intelligence doesn't replace knowledge, it enriches it. By understanding and managing emotions and by building strong interpersonal connections, emotional intelligence transforms knowledge from a static asset into a dynamic force that empowers individuals and organizations. The combination of knowledge and emotional intelligence is what creates true power. Knowledge alone, while valuable, is not enough to create real power or effect change. For knowledge to be truly transformative, it must be paired with courage and initiative. These two qualities act as the catalysts that move knowledge from the realm of ideas into action and impact. Courage is often misunderstood as simply fearlessness. In reality, courage is the ability to act despite fear, uncertainty, or risk. Many people have the knowledge they need to make a decision, solve a problem, or pursue an opportunity, but they hesitate because of fear of failure, rejection, or the unknown. Without courage, knowledge remains inert, locked away behind doubt and hesitation. Initiative is the willingness to take the first step, to move forward proactively rather than waiting for perfect conditions or permission. It means recognizing that knowledge is a resource to be used, not merely an accomplishment to be collected. Initiative transforms passive understanding into active pursuit. It requires self-motivation and a readiness to engage with challenges head-on. Consider the many great innovators, leaders, and change makers throughout history. Their success wasn't just because they knew more than others. It was because they had the courage to take risks and the initiative to act on their knowledge. Thomas Edison knew about electricity and materials, but what made him powerful was his willingness to experiment relentlessly and fail many times before inventing the light bulb. Rosa Parks knew the injustice of segregation, but it was her courageous decision to refuse to give up her seat that sparked a movement. Knowledge without courage and initiative can also breed frustration and stagnation. People who know what they want or need to do but never act often feel trapped in their own minds. They may overanalyze or procrastinate, stuck in the cycle of thinking without doing. This paralysis by analysis illustrates why courage and initiative are essential. They break the inertia and transform knowledge into movement. In the workplace, having technical skills or expertise is not enough to climb the ladder or lead projects effectively. It takes the courage to voice new ideas, challenge the status quo, and accept responsibility for outcomes. Initiative means volunteering for difficult tasks, seeking solutions rather than waiting for instructions, and showing leadership even when it's not formally required. It's also important to note that courage and initiative are not traits you either have or don't have. They can be developed and strengthened. Small acts of bravery and proactive steps build momentum and confidence. Over time, this fuels a cycle where knowledge, courage, and initiative reinforce one another, creating increasing levels of power and influence. In conclusion, knowledge is a powerful tool, but it is not self-sufficient. It requires the energizing forces of courage and initiative to become effective power. When you combine what you know with the willingness to act boldly and take charge, you unlock the true potential of your knowledge and make a meaningful difference in your life and the world around you. In today's fast-paced and ever-changing world, knowledge is not a fixed or static asset. What may be true or useful today could become outdated tomorrow. That's why continuous learning and adaptation are essential components of turning knowledge into real power. Simply acquiring knowledge once and resting on it is not enough. The ability to keep learning and adjust to new circumstances is what sustains and grows one's influence and effectiveness over time. Continuous learning means committing to a lifelong process of acquiring new information, skills, and perspectives. It is an active choice to stay curious, open-minded, and engaged with the world. Without this mindset, knowledge can quickly become obsolete. For example, technological advances have rapidly changed industries, making skills and knowledge learned a few years ago inadequate for current demands. Those who continue to learn are better equipped to navigate these shifts and seize new opportunities. Adaptation is the natural companion of continuous learning. It is the willingness and ability to change course based on new information, feedback, or changing environments. Adaptation requires humility, the recognition that what you knew before may not be enough, and flexibility to adjust your strategies or beliefs accordingly. Without adaptation, knowledge remains rigid and ineffective, unable to meet the demands of an evolving reality. The connection between learning, adaptation, and power is clear in many successful individuals and organizations. For instance, companies like Amazon and Netflix didn't just rely on their initial knowledge or market positions. They continuously learned about consumer behavior, technology trends, and competition, and adapted their business models accordingly. This ongoing process of learning and change is what enabled them to grow and dominate their fields. On a personal level, continuous learning and adaptation help individuals remain relevant and resilient. Life constantly throws new challenges and opportunities at us, whether in our careers, relationships, or personal growth. Those who commit to learning from their experiences, seeking out new knowledge, and adapting their approach are the ones who thrive. This agility is a powerful form of strength that allows you to overcome setbacks and keep moving forward. Moreover, continuous learning fosters innovation. When you stay curious and open, you're more likely to connect disparate ideas, challenge assumptions, and create novel solutions. Adaptation allows you to test those ideas in practice, refine them, and respond effectively to obstacles. Together, they keep your knowledge fresh and dynamic. It's important to remember that continuous learning and adaptation require intentional effort. It means setting aside time for reflection, seeking feedback, and stepping out of your comfort zone. It involves cultivating a growth mindset, the belief that your abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and effort. In conclusion, knowledge by itself is only a starting point. To wield real power, you must embrace a commitment to continuous learning and the flexibility to adapt. This ongoing process keeps your knowledge relevant, your skills sharp, and your actions effective. In a world that never stands still, those who keep learning and adapting are the ones who hold true power. Knowledge, no matter how vast or deep, is often limited in its power when held in isolation. The true strength of knowledge emerges when it is shared and combined with the knowledge and skills of others. Collaboration and sharing multiply the impact of individual knowledge, creating a collective intelligence far greater than the sum of its parts. When people come together to exchange ideas, insights, and experiences, they open the door to innovation and problem solving that would be impossible alone. Collaboration enables different perspectives to intersect, challenging assumptions and sparking creativity. Sharing knowledge builds trust, strengthens relationships, and fosters a culture of mutual support, essential ingredients for powerful action. In today's interconnected world, collaboration has become even more vital. Complex challenges, whether in business, science, or social issues, rarely have simple solutions. They require diverse expertise, teamwork, and the ability to integrate knowledge from multiple fields. By pooling resources and ideas, groups can tackle problems more effectively and reach solutions faster than any individual could. Consider the example of scientific research. Breakthroughs often happen not because of a lone genius, but because teams of researchers share their findings, debate theories, and build on each other's work. The Human Genome Project, for instance, was successful because scientists around the world collaborated and shared data openly. This collective effort accelerated discoveries that benefit all humanity. Similarly, in the business world, companies that encourage knowledge sharing among employees foster innovation and adaptability. When people freely exchange best practices, insights, and lessons learned, the organization becomes more agile and competitive. Collaboration across departments or even with external partners can lead to new products, services, and ways of working that drive success. Sharing knowledge also empowers others and amplifies influence. When leaders mentor, teach, or communicate openly, they multiply their impact by enabling others to act effectively. This creates a ripple effect where knowledge spreads beyond the original source, building capacity throughout communities and organizations. However, collaboration and sharing require openness and humility. It means valuing others' contributions, listening actively, and being willing to learn and adapt. It also involves trusting that sharing knowledge will lead to greater collective benefit, not personal loss. When people embrace these attitudes, knowledge becomes a powerful tool for connection and collective empowerment. In a practical sense, collaboration and sharing can take many forms. Teamwork on projects, open communication channels, cross-disciplinary meetings, online communities, or informal mentoring relationships. Technology today provides countless platforms that make sharing knowledge easier and faster, breaking down traditional barriers of geography and hierarchy. In conclusion, knowledge alone may empower the individual, but collaboration and sharing amplify that power exponentially. When knowledge is shared and combined through collaboration, it transforms into a dynamic force capable of driving innovation, solving complex problems, and creating lasting impact. The power of knowledge is truly unlocked when it becomes a shared resource, multiplied through connection and collective effort.